Rumors, lies, and hoaxes have always spread during times of disaster. It's a phenomenon probably as old as humanity itself. Even the best of circumstances, a crisis like this chaotic, unprecedented Los Angeles wildfires would be a vector for a lot of bad information. Our polluted information environment is creating an absolute blowtorch of lies being spread by the richest man in the world on the platform he owns to spread them, and the incoming president of the United States. For example, there's the false claim that the city of Los Angeles is out of water. Donald Trump himself posted a number of attacks against California's Democratic governor, Gavin Newsom, because this is what he does when there's a disaster. He sort of looks to blame with lies, including Newsom saying Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water to flow daily into many parts of California. As Newsom's office notes, however, there's no such document as the water restoration declaration. It's pure fiction. One local outlet also pointed out since Newsom has been in office, there has not been legislation that would do what Trump is describing. Trump made it up. Elon Musk and others boosted the similar claim the LA is out of water to fight fires. You see this everywhere, that Democratic Mayor Karen Bass is to blame, with Musk attacking bad governance at the state and local level that resulted in a shortage of water. I gotta say, this is really important because I've seen this everywhere. It's false. So what is true is that firefighters have been having trouble accessing water from hydrants, pulling it. And there's a very simple explanation for that. It has nothing to do with Mayor Bass. As the head of the city's water department told the BBC, we're fighting a wildfire with urban water systems, which is really challenging. Los Angeles has an urban water system designed, first and foremost, to get waters to homes and businesses. It is not designed to fight massive wildfires in a whole bunch of places at once. BBC also clarified firefighting crews were not without water, but rather faced issues, and this is key, with water pressure. There's water, there's not water pressure. That's true for a number of reasons, including high altitude, droughts exacerbated by climate change, unprecedented demand for water to put out the blazes, the fact that supply lines that feed fire hydrants are being disrupted by the raging wildfires themselves. Again, none of that is the fault necessarily of the mayor or the governor. But the whole point here is to create a story in which they're the bad guys, which is not to say that they're doing everything perfectly. It's just, there's not a real fact here this is based on. And the misinformation doesn't end there. Musk also claimed without any basis the LAFD prioritized DEI over saving lives and homes, which is really a pretty gross statement, frankly. The core of the gross attack appears to be that Los Angeles' fire chief, Kristen Crowley, is both the first female and first LGBTQ fire chief in LA's history. And because of that, to people like Elon Musk, she must therefore be unqualified and therefore responsible for the fire. Now, to be clear, Crowley has served in the LAFD for decades. She worked her way up from a firefighter all the way to fire chief. She received special commendation back in 2020 for her work during saving 9 homes during the 2018 Woolsey fire, along with her wife, who also spent decades in the Los Angeles Fire Department. It should go without saying, Crowley's personal identity has nothing to do with department preparedness to combat wildfires. Musk wasn't done with the gross attacks, though. He also signed off on this post from conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, claiming the Los Angeles fires are part of a larger globalist plot to wage economic warfare and deindustrialize the United States before triggering total collapse, to which Musk replied, true. How do I say this? The Los Angeles fires are not part of an intentional plot to deindustrialize the United States. This is the exact same level of nonsense as Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that some Rothschild space laser started the campfire in 2018, remember? Now, this particular Alex Jones theory may have proven too much for Musk, who deleted his response, but Alex Jones, the guy who, remember, lied about Sandy Hook shooting being staged, got the message loud and clear.
Elon Musk responded to a post from the first half hour of my show today where I laid out the basic evidence that the Democratic Party, with their policies, are 100% responsible consciously for the historic fire destroying much of Los Angeles in the last 48 hours.
Consciously. The absolute barrage of garbage, of filth, of sewage being pumped into the brains of people is unbelievable. It starts to feel like a kind of collective informational suicide we're all committing. It does not help when the guy who owns these so-called digital town squares tweeting about globalist plots and blaming wokeness for the fires. Matt Pierce is a journalist and president of the Media Guild West Union. He previously reported for the Los Angeles Times. He's been writing about misinformation on his Substack, including wildlife misinformation on his Substack, and he joins me now. Matt, you know Los Angeles well. You're a local reporter there. You basically wrote this piece and said, look, this is the first time I've experienced an emergency as a civilian. I'm not in a newsroom. I can't tap my colleague on the shoulder. I can't go into the office Slack. And you're like, it's a disaster. Tell me.
That's right, Chris. I spent many years as a reporter at the Los Angeles Times, many of them on the national desk, writing about disasters across the country. And you know, we all know that the information environment out there is awful. It's increasingly filled with conspiracy theories. But, you know, the kind of work that traditional legacy journalists are doing, you know, a lot of times you're talking to people in a community that's directly affected by a disaster. These are people who need to know whether they have to evacuate or not, because they need to know whether their house is about to burn down or not. And so in these situations, providing accurate information to people is absolutely vital. But, you know, this time in this disaster, I am, you know, thankfully safe. I live in a more urban part of the city away from the hills where the fires are. But, you know, I needed information about where the fires were, what the risk was, you know, what kind of planning I should be doing just as a regular civilian about whether to get out. And, you know, I had a realization surveying the landscape of, you know, trying to consume information through my phone. I don't have a TV or a radio in my house, so I'm just trying to do it via devices, which is our media future. And it was a disaster. You know, our social platforms don't prioritize accurate information. A lot of our local newsrooms have been depleted by layoffs because they haven't been able to survive into the internet era. And it was extremely hard to just get a basic understanding of what was going on. You know, I would pop over to TikTok hoping to see something and seeing a bunch of joke videos. And I did not get the sense that TikTok, the app, cared whether I, as an Angelino, lived or died. And to me, it points to this broader crisis that we have in our ecosystem where, on one end, the local news outlets that people used to rely upon critically for coverage of these types of events, which is still being done by the many excellent journalists here at the local newspapers and the local broadcast stations. But there's just a lot fewer of them now. And more of our information consumption on the consumer side is coming through these platforms where some of the owners are conspiracy theorists. Their dedication is not to the facts. Their dedication is to scoring political points and finding some other advantage to themselves. And it's just an unholy alchemy of factors that is going to prevent people from getting information about what they need to know. And even just an hour ago, a lot of people in Los Angeles, you know, we got misinformation from our own leaders in Los Angeles. They sent out an erroneous evacuation warning to a vast area of the city that wasn't actually going to evacuate. And so that's the sort of, like, mistakes happen. Officials make mistakes in disasters, but that's why you need vibrant local news outlets and people paying attention to them to counteract situations like that.
I saw